if you were the type of person who wants to build deep relationship, could you not then be the creator or the bringer together of some frequency level of gatherings that, the same people can be there. And so that you can have an ongoing conversation. That is a fantastic option. LinkedIn, it is a powerful space to reverse engineer careers, to see who might be doing positions or job titles similar to what you'd like to be doing. And the big thing that I want to stress is to have a robust network in place before you actually need someone's help is so crucial.
Very difficult to come up with sentences, and they form sentences in their head, edit those sentences using Grammarly, and then start again. And it is difficult, right? But asking questions is comparatively easier. And I say this to all introverts. Ask questions.
So the world is small and Vancouver is tiny. So people know people.
But in the past 10 to 12 years, my life has shifted so much. Now I am more emotionally connected to myself. Hello everybody, Monisha here, your host on Newcomers to Trailblazers. Buckle up, because we have got another power-packed episode with this person today. Before we get into that, a quick reminder, we release episodes every other week, which is fancy to say bi-weekly. And we are available on YouTube, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, Spotify. Please subscribe to us everywhere. This is my prompt. I will jump right in, I promise. And speaking of grooves, we are in the city of Vancouver, and this is the unceded traditional nation of Musqueam, Selil-Watuth, and Coast Salish people. All right, let's get this party started. Today, I'm thrilled to have Hannah Flostrand joining us. We met at a networking event, and let me tell you, this woman is a kindred spirit. We are both ambitious, outgoing, open-minded, and honest. Oh, and we both love meeting new people and diving into deep conversations with them. How could I miss the chance and resist not interviewing her? Like, look at her. Why would I not? So that's why I have invited her, and we have this power-packed episode today. So here we are with this amazing Hannah Flostrand. Did I say that right?
Hannah Flostrand.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, Flostrand.
If we were in Scandinavia, it would be Flostrand, but Flostrand is fine.
Flostrand is fine?
Flostrand is fine.
Turns out I can pronounce names. But yeah. So Hannah here is from Montreal, and she has a thing for standing out from the crowd. She spent most of her younger years in Quebec. She somehow managed to juggle between 3 languages: English, French, and Tagalog. A little bit of Spanish. Did I say 3? But I mentioned 4. Okay. So, by the way, Hannah now says she does not speak any language fluently. But to be honest, none of us speak all language fluently or any language fluently, do we? Like, I have a mother tongue and I speak 6 other languages, but I have never spoken any one of them fluently. Turns out we are much alike.
Oh, good.
Okay.
Excellent.
Hannah's got a fascinating background. She is a career educator. What does that mean? I have no idea. We will learn more about it from her. And she is in the transition. She is moving towards another space where she can help more people. We will also talk about it. And let's dive into the episode. How are you, Hannah?
I am doing very well. And actually, I've been fangirling on you since way before our first actual in-person meeting. I met you, or I saw your content on Tech to Step on the WhatsApp, and you were very very present, posting things. So I'm like, oh, this person sounds interesting. And then when I saw your face at that tech event 2 months ago, and I came up to you and I'm like, I think I know who you are. And then from there, and like, inseparable. I've just been following all your work.
Yeah. I have been stalking her too, just so you know. Yeah, she's been stalking me, but she's kind about it. But I've been stalking her. Like tech stalking her. That's what I've been doing. And this person, for the first time ever, a guest has actually got me something. I would like to show this. See. To the world. To the world.
Oh my gosh.
This
You deserve gifts. You're allowing me to be in your space. So this is such a gift.
When I welcomed you, you didn't even blink an eye. I said, yeah, of course. And you deserve to be in this space. Your story has to be out there. And the book she got me,
Everyone needs to check out.
yeah, everybody needs to check out. It says, we should get together. The secret of cultivating better friendships.
Not that you need more friendships, in the sense of like there's such a rich array of content that this person creates. I love Kat Velos. I love what she puts out into the universe. And so just enjoy.
Kat Velos. If you can see the little smile, that's the author.
Yeah.
And she says, full of charming illustrations, relatable stories, and practical tips, We Should Get Together is the perfect book for anyone who wants to have dedicated, life-enriching friends and who wants to be that kind of friend too. I hope I am really that kind of friend, but however, I have this wonderful book, and this is the first ever gift from my guest, and I'm super excited about it.
I'm touched.
Thank you.
This popped up during the pandemic, and I realized this is even more important for us as adults because we don't have the excuse of like going to school necessarily to make new connections. So I think it's such an important topic. But I totally just derailed us from the initial question that you had about standing out.
Yes.
That was your first question.
Yes, that was my first question. So you mentioned during our conversation that even though you were different, you liked being different. What does different mean to you? And why do you like standing out? And what does standing out look like to you?
I don't think it's intentional, but I guess I crave attention. As a young person, I used to do Filipino folk dancing in Montreal, and I was always at ease being in front of the public or on a stage. And I didn't realize, again, like not that everyone should give gifts, but like gift giving is such a pleasurable thing to do. So I didn't realize that would make me stand out. So these are just things that just, I think, happen, like just part of my makeup to stand out without meaning to. And I thrive in that environment because I don't mind being in the public eye, I guess. So that has served me well in the professions I've stumbled into in the past. And it makes sense looking back at my professions, at the choices of my different roles of like why standing out has connected into my jobs in the past.
Okay. So do you remember any specific experiences that made you stand out as a child? And how did that relate to standing out as an adult? Can you compare?
That's a great question. I still very distinctly recall that my parents trusted me in my grade 6 year. We moved from the suburbs into the city, and I couldn't shake the fact that I wouldn't be able to graduate with my grade 6 class. And that was a deal breaker for me. I couldn't not graduate because I was a total nerd. And so I had all of my Student of the Month awards and my academic accolades that I needed to. I couldn't leave that on the table and like start fresh halfway through a grade 6 year. Like that just didn't make any sense to me.
It is very insulting. I've never been a bright student.
So I was so nerdy that I couldn't fathom starting halfway through grade 6, and I had to graduate with my classmates. So my parents, my father walked me to the metro system, to our transit system, and for a week made sure I understood like where to get the bus, where the bus dropped me off in front of my school, like immediately, like door-to-door service practically. And they had me on a timer. They knew exactly if I took that bus, I would be home within 45 minutes, no delay, it was just a known thing. So all that to say, I think my level of maturity and sense of responsibility, even as a young person, shone through to my parents. And that just may have fed into how I identified as I can handle a bunch of things. I can do a lot of things. I can take it on. And so that's carried through into my work now, like working with people, gaining trust, gaining a level of comfort with folks. I think that plays into it.
Just so you know, before we get into the next question, in Canada, you're not supposed to allow a child.
I don't think that would be allowed anymore. I don't think.
I don't think it is allowed for a child to travel by themselves or go by themselves or be alone by themselves until a certain age. Is it 12, 13?
Probably around. So I was on the cusp of that age.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
I was on that cusp. Grade 6 is about 12 or 13 years old,
Okay.
and definitely just I don't know if I would have the same. I would have to see my own kid if there's that same sense of responsibility and maturity to be able to take on that responsibility of traveling by themselves. I don't know. We'll see.
I'm going to ask when her child becomes
Yes,
12.
ask me in 8 years.
I'm going to mark this on my calendar.
Yes, okay.
And
Sounds
say in
good.
8 years, okay, Hannah, we discussed
Is
this
your
about
kid able to take transit?
Yeah.
No, that wasn't interesting. I think it was very foundational in like just sense of independence, sense of being able to communicate, standing up for myself, advocating, learning how to advocate for myself at a young age.
Okay. So, because you spoke about independence and freedom, did you also have pocket money?
Oh, good question. I'm still trying to remember if we did allowances as a kid or if we needed something, our parents would just like give us what we would need. I think it was more so that there was just like, you clean your room because you have to clean your room. There's no sense of like one bed equals a quarter. Like there was none of that. It was just like, you need to do the thing. So do the thing.
So
why do you ask?
No, I have a point. So her parents were driven by discipline. They were not driven by motivation. They were not saying, like, hey, if you do this, we have a reward waiting for you. That's a very important sense. I'm not someone, I used to be someone who's driven by motivation all the time.
External motivations, you mean?
Yeah. Be it reward or performance or value or appreciation, a lot of things. I used to be that person. Then I realized I don't need to be that person because to achieve something, a great sense of responsibility should come from within. And your parents inculcated that since you were young. Kudos to you, parents.
Yay, mom and dad.
Yeah. Okay. We have spoken about your childhood. Now let's move into the next phase.
Sure.
You are a career educator. Like I said, I have no idea what that means, but we will learn from it. But I know for a fact that you work for a college in the Greater Vancouver area. And in that college, you make sure the people who are being educated under you get the opportunity to choose what they become, how they become that, and also give them the opportunity to identify people and network with the right people. So, am I right? Is that what you do?
I think folks who come to my classes, those who come to my college and are part of the program that I am part of and support, they're fully formed. I say that I am, if you know Netflix, I think everyone knows Netflix, I am like the Netflix algorithm, but for careers, in the sense of you may have been doing certain activities with regards to your work or how you find work from wherever home is. And so now coming to a new space, you may not yet be aware of all of the different options. So I'm like the algorithm to say like, oh, have you tried this? Have you considered this option? Have you considered this professional association as a way of connecting? So yes, working at Langara College in the post-degree diploma program, working predominantly with international students has been, and the graduation ceremony just happened last Wednesday. So it is a very happy time to see students coming to their completion of their academic work. But during that time, in the courses that I teach, navigating the world of work locally and trying to understand resume, cover letter, interview skills, networking, which is, again, such a powerful activity and something that I want to dispel the myths of what networking is or what it can be. So things like that, those are the activities that fill my time lately. And there's, as you've mentioned, a career shift along the way. This is in stark contrast. The students I have, oh my gosh, if they're watching this, they'll know I'm practically a cartoon character, I think, because I'm just like, I love what I teach. I want to cheer them on. I'm their biggest cheerleader in this process because let's talk about it. Job search is like soul deadening. It can be the worst activity and it makes you doubt everything. So I want to be a little spark of joy of like, okay, it sucks right now. It's a temporary stopping point. Let's talk about the things that you do have control over. Let's talk about the things that you can try or fix or tweak or play with that gets you either out of your funk in job search, because it is horrible. And now
it is.
probably not the best time to be looking for work, but you have to.
Yeah.
And how can you mitigate? How can you leverage what you are really good at? And how can you find those spaces? So that's where I love my work the most. And it'll be very interesting to see how I navigate that shifting into a new space.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
You have spoken about how you help your students, right? And what kind of teacher are you? You've already spoken about that. And like she mentioned, we met each other in a networking event. And she created her own networking event, which was actually called Unnetworking.
Yes.
Yeah, very cool name for a
Thanks.
networking event. And considering I'm not a conventional networking person, I don't like to wear formal clothes, go to a setting, and then introduce myself, saying with the pitch, saying 15-second pitch or 30-second pitch, and say, "This is who I am, Tidilu." I can't do that. I'm terrible at it.
Right.
But
and that's probably very insincere, inauthentic in how you
Extremely.
engage.
Yeah, and it is for an extrovert like me, but it's difficult for me. For an introvert, it is worse.
Mm.
So, having experienced your unnetworking event, tell us a little about your unnetworking
Sure.
event. She's doing more in the future. If you haven't attended it, I strongly recommend attending it. More and more coming along. But tell us about the idea behind your unnetworking event and how it helps extroverts, ambiverts, introverts into using their potential to maximize their potential.
Great question. So the unnetworking event that you're referring to that I set up in April was inspired actually by my Langara students, specifically my data analytics students.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to you if you're watching.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know if you are. So they're phenomenal. So
Mm-hmm.
in kind of contrast to the students that you said you were working with, who were predominantly in that early adulthood age, the majority of my students are years of experience, years of industry experience from all over the world. They're intelligent. They're probably more credentialed than I am.
Mm-hmm.
So when looking at their resumes and cover letters, I'm like, okay, like there's always room to tweak.
Yeah.
But that is not the only tool you have in your toolkit to connect and to find work. Mm-hmm. So from that aha moment for me, I'm like, they don't need more time to. Yes, we always need time to work on a resume and cover letter, but I think that what would add the most value is an event that would bring folks in my ecosystem, in my professional network, in the same room with these amazing folks, and to have them talk to each other or to meet each other. And so also in collaboration with the Tri-Cities Local Immigration Partnership, thank you, Tabitha, an amazing powerhouse that she is, and that she also was able to see the value of this kind of idea. And so with her ecosystem, with her resources, there was a chance to collaborate with TC-LIP, Tri-Cities Local Immigration Partnership. My ability to bring my students and my ecosystem in the same space. She brought her ecosystem together. And then we hung out at Roots Cafe on Main Street with at the Ethel's Cafe and had a chance to just bring people in the room together. And so truly the idea was, how do we break the silos? How, like there are amazing networking events for different professions, different professional associations, different disciplines, different domains. So I'm sure, HR has there's the CHRP organization for project management is the PMI, the West Coast chapter. And then every other profession in between has their own groupings and events. So I'm like, I like when my food mixes. I like when people from different areas kind of bump into each other, because you don't know what you don't know. And those intersections are most fascinating. So that was, again, the part of the DNA of this unnetworking was to break the silos, not be a sales pitch, not be like, I need a job. Do you have a job? It was more so human connection and finding a way to find common ground. That was kind of crucial. Fangirl of Cadvellows and of Monisha. So yes, that was definitely part of the equation.
This is beautiful. Now that you've mentioned it, many people, including some of my friends, and I have realized that they find it extremely difficult to go and connect with people. The reason why they find difficult is it's very monotonous for them to go and have a pitch ready and introduce yourself and things like that. And apart from that, most of them don't like talking. They are
Right.
Some of them are introverts and they are like, why do I have to go out? Why do I have to put myself out there? I like being in my own space. I like my laptop. I like my little room. I like my own space. I don't want to go and talk to people. I don't want to talk to random strangers, especially. And utilizing those random strangers' connection for something else in future. They don't want to feel that way. What advice do you have for people?
Fantastic question. And I realized that was part of your initial question of like, for folks who are extroverted, ambiverts, and introverts, and everything in between, how do you navigate if you're not necessarily all rah and like in people's faces like we are? So
we are not in.
We're not. We're
we are.
We're gently in this space, right? We're trying
not
to.
Gently.
You're not gently. It's shameless. We're shameless. So definitely, those who are at ease in the public, this might be less of a hurdle. So I absolutely recognize that. And I have this conversation with my husband. He'll be watching this possibly later. Of he's married to a career coach, and it boggles my mind that I'm like, how you have the time, and I don't understand why you're not going to every single possible event that's out there in the universe, because that's what I would do. But we are very different people.
Yeah.
Where I am energized by being in, I think as I'm getting older, I'm thinking from my extroversion, I'm becoming more ambivert. I do deeply appreciate my quiet time, my quiet space, and I am recharged in quieter spaces now than I was as a young person. But my easy go-to part of my personality is I am energized being around people. So from after a long day of teaching or like being in front of the classroom,
I don't understand. So after a long day of teaching in front of people, you still want to find more people to be energized with? Is that what
that's an extrovert? Yes, that's what I understand an extrovert to be. To be energized, to seek other stimuli is an extrovert tendency or quality. Whereas those who might be like, oh my goodness, like this is too much information or like too much energy, too much going on. Introverts can actually be quite extroverted in an event, but for an introvert, my understanding is where they get their energy is quiet space, maybe one-on-one kinds of conversations, or just fully shutting in and just having moments in quiet time by themselves. So in the conversations that I've had with my husband, who's far more on the introverted side, he does need to seek quieter spaces, or he's quite at ease in crowds, but he needs to understand who is in the room and trust and have a relationship, an ongoing relationship with the people in that environment. So he has a weekly, he calls it wine o'clock. It's his time that he meets his fellow academics and folks that he deeply trusts and respects professionally and personally. So I get that's another style of networking, actually. If that is more at ease, more comfortable, then I would recommend, instead of going to like a random one-of event, if you were the type of person who wants to build deep relationship, could you not then be the creator or the bringer together of some frequency level of gatherings that the same people can be there, and so that you can have an ongoing conversation? That is a fantastic option. We also talked about introversion, and I would say that is a deep superpower for folks, especially if you're tech savvy, if you're able to get onto LinkedIn. I live on LinkedIn. That would be my other address, my second address, if I needed to list one.
It is true.
I'm there all the time. There's some really interesting conversations and events and things that I like to promote or amplify from others in my network. I'm like, hey, you folks need to hear about this. So if it freaks you out to go to large crowded events and it feels transactional and inauthentic, then I highly recommend use the platforms that exist. So
the power of LinkedIn.
Yes, deeply. You're not sponsored by LinkedIn.
We
have no connections to LinkedIn.
I would really love a sponsor by
that would be pretty powerful. Eh? Okay.
I'm gonna write an
work on that. Yeah, I would say so.
You know what? I'm gonna LinkedIn to LinkedIn.
Hey, do it.
Yeah.
Do it.
Yeah.
We may have some connections.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it.
Yeah.
Okay. So LinkedIn, it is a powerful space to reverse engineer careers, to see who might be doing positions or job titles similar to what you'd like to be doing. it would also be helpful for folks if you have recently completed your studies somewhere. So this is something I show my students, my class. You have a large Langara, for example, a large Langara alumni network. And so folks in our institution have graduated and gone to do many different positions. So that would be the same BCIT, SFU, UBC, all the post-secondaries across Canada, what have you. So it is a very interesting way to tap into a connection that already you have a connection because of where you already studied. So things like that, or navigating, so making that initial, I guess it's a cold call, but it wouldn't be a cold call because you have something to start with. You are able to see someone's LinkedIn profile, work backwards of like, where did they start and how did they get to the role that they're doing? They might be a fantastic contact because they might be an unconventional person like yourself doing a career shift, or they're also from another country, and how do they navigate their transition into the local economy or local market? So you already have starting points for conversation to not make it transactional. And the big thing that I want to stress is to have a robust network in place before you actually need someone's help is so crucial. Then it takes away that element of it is not transactional. You're starting the conversation out of true curiosity, not because like you have a job, I need a job. Different interaction, different engagement. So I hope I answered the question of like, for the extrovert, for the ambiverts, for the introverts.
You did answer the question.
There's a way to connect in whatever's comfortable for you.
Yeah. And I realized that irrespective of, just to be clear, when someone says they are extroverted, they don't mean they are 100% extroverted. It is not possible. You are maybe 80% extrovert, 60% extrovert. 50%.
It is
it's a range. Right? Yeah. Extroverted people, it does not mean that extroverted people don't like quiet spaces. I love kayaking. I love solo kayaking. And I love looking into the water, looking into the sun. I like that. But I'm extroverted, right? But I like that quiet space. I love reading books. I don't group read. I cannot group read.
Oh.
I don't like book clubs.
By that.
I don't understand it. And I don't go to book clubs. I cannot do that. Sit in one corner, pick up the book, and then read page to page, like screw the orange juice out of the orange kind of thing. That's how everybody is different, right? Similarly, when introverts, like you mentioned, introverted behavior is actually a superpower. You can utilize it.
Keen observers, good listeners. Those are crucial skills to be able to navigate the world of work. And so it's just knowing what you're really good at, knowing what comes naturally, and leveraging it.
And when extroverts say they are good listeners, don't believe them.
Okay, I'll leave you to.
There are some good listeners. You learn to listen,
yes,
but that's not an innate quality that you have.
That makes sense.
You take your time, you learn to listen, you do your mantras, and then sit in one place, take a 3-second pause. All of those are trainings needed for an extrovert to move into listening skills. But introverted people are amazing at listening. Tap into that potential. And they are also amazing at asking questions. If introverted people do not like answering questions, I 100% agree. It is very difficult to come up with sentences, and they form sentences in their head, edit those sentences using Grammarly, and then start again. And it is difficult, right? But asking questions is comparatively easier. And I say this to all introverts. Ask questions. Prepare 4 questions. Prepare 5 questions. Keep the standard template and ask questions. Let them speak. People love speaking about themselves. Utilize that as well.
Excellent strategy. That is, and that helps to diffuse the attention if anyone feels the sense of like, okay, I should go to an event, but it feels so transactional. If you shift the perspective of I'm there to get something to I want to meet 2 people at this event, only 2, that's all I need. I'm going to have conversations that are interesting. So I'm going to ask these questions to learn this about this person. Then it changes it from like, I have to, the weight is on you to be scintillating or exciting or whatever the weight that you think you have to be, to I'm just going to show up. I'm just going to be there.
Even if not networking events, I would also recommend doing that for interviews.
Yeah.
So when you go to the interviews, what I usually do is I stalk the people. I'll just copy paste the name on LinkedIn and identify them. then stalk the people. Some people are active on LinkedIn, some people aren't, which is okay. But the best thing about LinkedIn is their work history.
Yes.
Even if they aren't active, you know what kind of experience they carry over the years.
Correct.
Is that specific experience? Is it a specialist experience? Did they grow as a leader? Did they grow as a specialist or technical expert? Did they move from lateral positions? Did they grow vertically? Did they grow horizontally? There are multiple ways to learn about a person. And when you go to an interview, I usually use this. I research about the profile. When I start an interview, I say that, hey, I stalked your profile on LinkedIn.
That's fantastic.
Shamelessly. I'm like, I stalked your profile on LinkedIn. Looks like you have a decade's experience in the financial industry. Now you are in this industry. How is it different for you? What have you learned about this industry? So that gives a conversation starter. That is a conversation starter. And I also get to learn about someone who wants to give me information where I can have good qualitative questions for them as well. So this really helps.
And it shifts the power dynamic. You are not at the mercy of, if you've prepared yourself to come armed with knowledge about your person who's going to be asking you questions. Oh my gosh. And that would be super flattering too. Like, oh, you took the time to learn about me. That's kind of nice. So excellent strategy.
Let's do that. All right. We have spoken about your networking event. We have spoken about introverts, extroverts. We have spoken about your life as a career educator, your childhood memories, and all of that. Moving forward, you are moving from, like we mentioned in the introduction, she's transitioning. Like, what kind of transition is it? We spoke about multiple transitions, right? Yeah. Is it lateral shift? Is it vertical shifting? Are you growing as a leader? Are you growing as a specialist? What kind of transition is it? And out of curiosity, is career transition easy in Canada?
That is a great question. And I was counting to see, actually, this is probably my third career shift. So briefly to give some context, I studied in college or in Cégep in Quebec. I studied applied sciences. That would have led me into engineering. I failed 2 of my 3 physics and realized, okay, so I'm not going to be an engineer. What do I do now? So I completed my studies to just complete the diploma and then transferred, like many probably failed science students, into business. I became a business student. From business, I studied HR. I was actually an HR major and realized going through the program, there were interesting aspects to HR, but you end up working as representatives for the employer, and not really the parts that really interested me the most was more the employee development. So I never actually ended up working in HR because I found my way into higher education, working as a tour guide, as a recruitment officer and admissions officer. That led me into a professional space of being in higher education for most of my professional life. But when I came to BC from Montreal and realized I've never worked in HR, I've applied to a few HR jobs. No one would take me even in for an interview because I had no experience to speak of. But I had such a wealth of information and knowledge in higher education. I ended up finding my way into working at SFU. And in my time at SFU, I stumbled on the Career Development Center. Didn't even realize that was a job, that you could be a career educator or career developer in higher education. So I'm like, oh, I need more of this. How do I do this? So shout out to my mentor. I think he knows he's my mentor. Tony Botello is awesome. I have a career crush on what he did at SFU, and now he continues to do amazing work at UBC. Suggested doing the Career Development Practitioner Certificate. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what I needed, but he's like, this piece of paper is a box that needs to be checked off to be able to say, okay, you don't have maybe industry experience. Working in higher education has been my entire space, but this would be the leveraging needed to be able to shift. So with his advice, I did the Career Development Practitioner Certificate and was able to slowly get into the world of co-op, that's cooperative education, higher education, the chance to do work and school at the same time. And then that led me to become, a career educator. I left SFU, had an opportunity to teach at Langara. And so working as a career educator at Langara, working with international students, working with internationally trained professionals, this new space that I'm interested in is immigration.
Mm.
And so it was not an immediate idea. Like the seed was planted in 2018 when someone first told me that it's a profession to be an immigration consultant.
Mhm.
But at that point, I was like halfway through a master's. I was pregnant with my kiddo. And I'm like, okay, I don't think I could take on any further studies.
Mhm.
But I knew that that was something in the future.
Mhm.
So long-winded way to answer your question of like, I think career shifting, it really depends on each person's situation.
Mhm.
In my particular situation, my career's kind of like I stumbled on my careers. I didn't know to be a career educator or to be an immigration consultant. I didn't know those professions
Mm.
15 years ago, 20 years ago. So it was something that emerged that I realized I don't have experience in these things. So I need a certification to give me some kind of credentialing and background, foundational background to understand what are these professions. So that was for career development and that was for immigration. So I think that kind of partially answers your question. Like I needed to get a credential. I needed something to say I can do the thing.
Mhm.
And then I would say in addition or parallel to getting the credential was the networking, was finding people in who are already practitioners in the space. So previously in career development,
Mhm.
lot of conversations with folks who worked in the space. So I could know like where could I potentially land an internship or where could I get some of the experience required for me to finish the career development certificate. I needed to get experience. So that was hugely part of it. For the immigration one, even before entering the program at Queen's, which is an online program, I started talking to people locally and across Canada who are in the immigration field of like, what's the biggest trends that you're seeing, like, technology and AI? How is that interplaying with your work? What are the biggest challenges? Is it, what are the things that bring you joy to make this profession worthwhile? So that part of it, the career conversations,
Mhm.
in addition to the credentialing, have been the path that I take for my career transitions.
Hmm.
So I don't know if that helps to answer the
It
question.
does help.
Yeah. So I don't know if it's easy or hard. Like I don't know if that's the right
I
question.
think I understood 3 points
Okay.
here. One is mentorship, another one is credentialing, and another one is networking. So 3 different things. Mentorship, even irrespective of which career you're moving from or to, you need these 3 things. One is mentorship. You identify who can help you move into the career, who can
Who knows more than you?
who knows more than you,
Yes.
and what you can learn from them. And second is if they are pointing you towards the credentialing, try and understand that there are lots of types of credentialing. There is micro credentialing, there is university degrees, graduation. There are multiple types of credentialing. Identify which works for you. And then the third one is networking. So networking, I have to tell you this. I do 4 different things. When I say 4 different things, I'm a pet mom, which
Okay.
means I need a network of pet moms.
Okay.
Yeah. And one of them is sitting right there. Yeah. So, second is I am a talent development professional, which means I need a network of talent development professionals or organizational development professionals. Third, I am a podcaster, which means I also need a network of podcasters. Just to put it out there, we have an event on July 7th, calling all podcasters in the lower mainland BC. I will put out some links in the description. Please check it out. Amazing. And number 4, I also have a nonprofit called Tech to Step.
Yes.
So I do 4 different things, which means I need 4 different networks. And anything that is coming apart from my network, like my kayaking friends or hiking friends, they are extras, right? not in a bad way, but they are all networks. So you have to understand which network you want to tap into, which network plays an important role at the moment for you. If you're looking for a job, my talent development or organizational development network will play a major role. So which network is it that you're looking for? Networking does not mean you go to random events and start talking. Well, that is one way to do it.
That's one way.
That's one way to do it. Is that an efficient way? Will that yield results for you immediately?
Sure.
I am not sure because I'm a process person. I like the process. But if you have a process of, hey, I want to move into product management, find people who are doing product management. Don't go to kayaking friends. It is not going to happen.
I will contest. I would love to contest. So You have just demonstrated you are at the intersections of 4 different spaces professionally, and then plus with all of your other personal hobbies and interests. We are so complex. We are so much more than one siloed thing, being, or whatever. So I am of the mind that, yes, you may not see immediate result if you go to a random event, but you never know who you're going to meet. I went to a data science for women in data science event a couple of months ago. I'm not data science. Besides the first non-technical conversation, the rest of the conference went over my head. But I'm like, I'm in a room with very intelligent people and just a range of different ideas. I'd never heard of certain things, or the way the code moves. I didn't catch everything. But I got to sit with very cool people, and during the networking segments, learn of folks who then would feed into. So I met someone who then I invited to the networking event, who's now part of my ecosystem. So I recognize there is room for very direct, very specific, very niche conversations and pursuit of developing a particular ecosystem, interest or professional connection. That makes sense. But I would like to counter and say, if you have room for that, can you sometimes make room? If it's not every week, that's too much, but maybe once every quarter or once a month, to do something that's out of your usual circle, outside of your usual connections, just because you never know where that's going to take you, is my humble opinion.
No, it makes sense, actually. That is a good challenge.
Balance.
I liked it.
Yeah.
I like the balance. And like you mentioned, I do multiple things.
Yeah.
And there are some overarching Venn diagrams within my networks as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I met you through Tech to Step. I didn't know you as a podcaster.
Yeah, exactly. She met me through Tech to Step, and she didn't know I was a podcaster. And turns out she's here.
So the world is small and Vancouver is tiny.
Yeah.
So people know people know people. Yeah. So that's why I say yes, silo or be specific, but also broad. T-shaped? Is that the T or I forget what letter.
Or V. I don't know.
V?
Yeah,
okay.
I don't know.
Sure. But all the alphabet.
All the alphabet. I would also say the population of Canada is 40 million, 4 crores in Indian, but 40 million in 40 million, right? So, and the population of Nigeria is 400 million.
Yeah.
And the population of India is 1.4 billion.
Tiny. We're across a very large landmass.
Yeah.
But we're so, in pockets.
Yeah. We are in a landmass, but pockets. Yes. Remember that. So, which means you're always going to have to know people.
So be kind to everyone.
Yeah.
Be kind to everyone.
Remember to be nice and kind, because you might stumble across any time to another person. So you have to be nice.
Yes.
I'm not nice, but you have to be nice. Yeah.
Lead by example.
Nah. I can either be myself or be nice. I don't think I can do both.
Okay, fair enough. Know yourself.
Yeah. Not nice. But okay. However, now that we have spoken about a lot of things, we have spoken about your life and what your future is going to look like, what kind of transition you're trying to go through, and how you are helping other people transition in their respective careers. We have spoken a lot. Now, it's your turn.
Oh, absolutely.
Do you have a question?
I have 3. Are your future dreams for your podcast?
Oh, good question. So what are my future dreams for my podcast?
Yeah.
I'll tell you what. There are 2 ways to go about it. One is a number way. I need to have 4 million views or 4,000 hours of watch and 7,000 subscriptions, random strange numbers. That is one way to look at it.
Right.
I don't look at it that way.
Okay.
I am, like I said already, I'm a process person. I'm not stick to one goal and find a way to do it. That's not the kind of person I am. A process person. I like structure and being organized and things like that. What I want to do is create impact in people's lives. That is what I want to do. And if I have to give you an example, 3 different people, random strangers, I didn't know. They reached out to me on LinkedIn and said, "Hey, Monisha, I watched this. I was in tears. I really liked the show. And I like that. I liked your answer. I liked the guest answer. This was very relatable to my experience. I now know how to proceed," and things like that. Right? So that is the impact that I want to create, but in large scale.
That's powerful.
3 people to whatever number of people. I'm not focused on the number.
Well, and you don't know the ripple effect of those 3 people that you touched or helped or something impacted or resonated. Who knows, because of what they heard of your contact and how
Yeah.
you're just adding positivity to the world.
That is something that I want to do, create impact in people's lives. That is immeasurable. I don't want to, when people say, hey, I have impacted 3,000 lives, I'm like, nah, you never really
You
know,
don't.
right?
You
But
don't.
for me, it is like, I don't want to know how many people I have impacted, but I want to know the stories that touch them. I want to know. So if you did like this episode, or if you liked any one of the previous episodes, do reach out to me. I would love to hear what you have to say, what your feedbacks are. Monisha, I would also like to ask a question, and if you put out a question, I'm happy to do that as well. So that is
Great.
what I want in my podcast.
And that may already partially answer my next question for you is, what is something that you're proud of but don't get to normally talk about? So I don't know if that already kind of touches on what you've been doing with the podcast, or if there's something else that you're super proud of but you don't get to share it normally or talk about it publicly.
What I'm super proud of, but I don't talk about it publicly. I was raised in a household which was not very conducive to emotions. So if I have to say, uh, success was taught to us as numbers and achievements, and you have to score so many marks in your exam, you have to come first, you have to achieve everything you set your mind to, and you should not fail in anything. Failure is, oh my god, you have lost, how did that happen, kind of a household.
Right.
I don't blame them. That's how they were
That's the
raised.
context.
That's how they were raised, and that's how I was raised. And for so many years, I did not know how to handle failure. Or even in interviews, when people ask, "What is your biggest failure?" I'll have to cook up something because I didn't know.
How to address it.
I didn't know how to address it, honestly. But in the past 10 to 12 years, my life has shifted so much. Now I am more emotionally connected to myself. If I have to give you an example, I watched this movie Inside Out 2 yesterday.
Okay, don't tell me anything yet. I need to hear it.
Okay. The movie talks about, if you have watched the movie talks about different emotions. Yeah, that's it. I'm not going to say more.
Okay.
I didn't know how to name an emotion when I was growing up.
Yeah.
All the emotions I knew was happy, sad, and anger. I didn't know what anxiety was. I didn't know what frustration was. I didn't know what envy was. I didn't know what sarcasm was.
Randy Kaling is the best.
I didn't know a lot of emotions. And I think over 10 years, I have tapped into my emotions. I have tapped into who I am as a person. And I realized that what I learned as a child was useless. Physically, what I learned as a child, how success was said to you and how growth was said to you.
I see.
Emotional growth was never appreciated and it was never spoken about. And that's just one example of a traditional household. I don't know, different households are different. That is something that if I go outside and if I speak to people, I don't get an opportunity to speak about it. People know me as a person who connect to my emotions today.
I see.
But I have not been that person 10 years ago. 10 years ago, I did not know the difference between frustration and anger. For me, everything was anger. Happy, sad, and anger. Those are all the three emotions I knew. And if you're sad, the only advice I ever got was everything will be fine. Terrible advice. And I didn't know therapy is a big help. I've still not been in therapy, like professionally. But I think to tap into your own emotional potential, emotional intelligence, I strongly recommend talking to professionals and therapists, and at least talking to people who have conversations around emotions, which I didn't get a chance to. Even when I would tell my parents or friends that I feel sad and like everything will be fine. There is nothing to be sad about. Just focus on the next thing, next big thing, and your growth and your career and shame, right? All of those things was associated for me, and I think I've spoken about it.
Well, thank you for sharing. That is powerful. I think there is a shift, I think, with regards to therapy and getting therapy. I am a happy consumer of or user. I don't know what the right term would be, but I'm seeing how powerful, because our loved ones are our loved ones, and they care for us, and they have some ability to hold space for us, sometimes not. So to seek out someone who's professionally trained, and still, even finding someone who's professionally trained doesn't mean automatically you're going to gel with their personality. So it does take some time to find someone who's going to make the space that you feel seen, and to be able to unpack the things that you need to unpack, or that are causing whatever emotions that need to be addressed. Oh, it's immeasurable how much help that can be. And I don't think there's ever a late time to do it.
Yeah.
It's always a good time whenever you're ready to. So therapy is huge. Therapy is important. Therapy is, I also recognize, but like, if you don't have medical coverage to cover for it, that can be, quite a challenge to get. But if and when you can get it, it gives you, I think, a more deeper, richer way of living. Because now you, as you just said, you have a far larger palette of emotions to call upon, and no emotion is bad or good. There shouldn't be any valence to the emotion. It's telling you something. It's a guide. It's a sign. It's something to help redirect or what have you. But it's all important to be human.
Yeah, to be human, you need to tap into your emotions, which was not taught to me. And it was, I believe it was too late for me by the time I understood and recognized, you know what, there is something called emotions. Man, I didn't know. It took me some time. It took me more than a decade.
Sure.
And it does take
a lifetime.
Years and decades.
Lifetime.
So, okay, next question.
Okay, last but not least. Well, then it kind of answers a little bit also my next question of, what do you feel is most important?
Mm-hmm.
Where we come from, or where you're going to?
Tricky question. I think where we are going to is important to look forward to, but where you're coming from makes you the person you are today, who can look forward to the future. So I think both. I cannot choose one. Like I said, I was a different person 10 years ago. I am different today. But if I don't look into my past, I wouldn't have known that I have become a different person today. Over the overachieving years of all these things, I wouldn't have known. So that is very important. But to look forward to is also very important, because for me, if you want to achieve something, you will find a way to achieve it. That's it. Challenges or not, you will find a way to achieve it. If you don't want to achieve it, you will find excuses not to achieve it. That's it. There is no, I have tried, it didn't work.
At least that was action.
Yeah.
Something happened.
Yeah.
Attempt.
Yeah. Try to do it. Take action steps. Don't sit in one place and talk about it and take some action about it. Yeah. I don't like people who give advice for the sake of advice. And there are they put some quotes in it and some random things in it, and they will add their story to it. Don't follow them. I mean, really, don't follow them. You know what is right for you. You might understand what the path that they have taken through their story, but not necessarily that path will help for you. And design your own path forward. That is very important. And to design that own path, you should have traveled at least in 3 or 4 different paths to find out your own path. And it is okay if that takes time. But once you have realized this is the path that you move forward, if this is the path that you want to take, I think that will humongously change you as a person, and it will also help you develop yourselves into a better person who can help others achieve things as well, as a leader, as an individual, as a parent, or as just a human being. I think that will help.
Powerful. Thank you.
I didn't know I could speak so well. Impromptu, that too.
Well done. You impress me with all of the things that you've done and who you're bringing to the table and highlighting on your podcast.
I'm bringing to the sofa, I mean.
Oh, well, I appreciate that I get to be part of this activity, this project of yours. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, viewers. Yeah. If you haven't listened already to my introduction, we are available on YouTube Audio. We are also available on Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, Spotify. If you're a listener, you can listen. If you're a viewer, you can view. We are always available for you. You can reach out to us. I'm gonna put her LinkedIn profile, because she's super active on LinkedIn. I'm gonna put her LinkedIn profile on the description. I'm gonna put my LinkedIn profile on the description, and a couple of other things that we spoke about, a couple of other videos. Please do follow us, like, share, subscribe, and out. Bye bye.